You ever stop and think about how your phone just works with your laptop? Or how a website looks exactly the same on pretty much any computer in the world? Well, the answer is this invisible force in tech called standards. And trust me, without them, our digital world would be complete and utter chaos. We've all been there, right? That feeling of total frustration when things just refuse to connect. To really get what we mean, let's listen in on a couple of students, Rizwan and Brett, who are cramming for their computer science exam. Brett is pretty fed up. He says, "Fine, but look at this drawer of wires, Rizwan. It's a graveyard of cables that don't fit anything. Why is there a charger here from 2008? And honestly, that tangled mess is the perfect way to understand why we desperately need standards. And that right there is the whole point. Standards are the solution to that chaos. They're like the secret rulebook that lets all our different gadgets and software speak a common language, stopping a total digital meltdown before it even starts. Okay, so imagine that drawer of useless cables, but for everything digital. It would be a nightmare. Rizwan puts it perfectly. We already live in a world where standards are inconsistently applied. Like how different countries use different plug sockets. If we had that level of mess in computer science, it'd be a disaster. So what is a standard exactly? Well, think of it as a shared blueprint. It's a set of specifications that all the big manufacturers agree to follow so that the stuff they make can actually work together. It's the official agreement that makes everything play nicely. All right, let's dive into our first big example. How do computers agree on something as basic as what a letter looks like? The answer is a standard called a character set. And this is basically how it works. A shared standard makes sure that when one device sends the binary code for the letter A, the device on the other end knows it's an A. Without that agreement, you get total confusion. Like Brett wonders.
So if I text William a B and his phone shows a picture of a sausage roll, that's a lack of standards?
Yup, basically. That's why we need standard sets of binary codes like ASCII, which was one of the first big ones, and Unicode, which is way, way bigger. Unicode is amazing. It can represent characters from pretty much every language on Earth, making sure your texts look the same whether you're sending them across the street or across the planet. Okay, next up, the standard that literally built the web as we know it, HTML. This is all about making sure web pages look consistent, no matter what device or browser you're using. And here's the proof. HTML is the universal language of the web. As Rizwan explains, it doesn't matter who made the browser. If a page is written in HTML, it's going to look the same, whether it's on a brand new gaming rig or, that ancient computer in the school library. So, we've figured out how devices agree on what things are, but how do they agree on how to talk to each other? That's where protocols come in. You can think of them as the rules of the road for data. So a protocol is really just a set of agreed-upon rules for communication. Simple as that. If two devices are speaking the same protocol, they can exchange information. Without these rules, your Wi-Fi would be useless, and the internet would just stop. Now for a specific protocol that became an absolute giant, Ethernet. You've definitely seen those cables plugged into the back of your computer or router. But what made it the undisputed king of wired networks? So why did Ethernet win? Well, it was kind of a perfect storm. It offered high speeds, the connection was super reliable, and, this is the big one, it was cheap to make and install. That combo made it a total no-brainer for manufacturers to adopt, which just solidified its place as the standard. All right, time for a quick recap. As Rizwan tells Brett, if you're trying to revise, this is the essential stuff you've got to remember. Let's run through it. For characters, you've got ASCII and Unicode. For physical cables, like Ethernet, you're looking at IEEE standards. For web pages, it's all about HTML. And then you've got your file formats, like PDF, PNG, and MP3, which are all standards that make sure files work everywhere. So there you have it. Standards are the unsung heroes of our digital lives. They're the reason everything just works together so smoothly. But that doesn't mean they can solve every problem. Which leads Brett to ask one last, very important question. And on that note, maybe the biggest question is, as our tech gets even more complicated, what are the new standards and protocols we're going to need to invent? And who gets to decide what those rules will be? Something to think about.